finally, and thank you, Mike Morgan, we have cool temperatures and absolutely beautiful autumn golden light. And it's the perfect time for pumpkin shopping. So I'm here with my friend Carrie, aka the Bug Whisperer, at Bricks, my local pumpkin patch. And when I say local, it's literally just a few blocks from my house on the corner of 40th and Classen. But wherever you buy your pumpkins, there are certain things that we want to be mindful of so that we get the biggest bang for our buck when we go pumpkin shopping. So give us some tips on what to look for to get the best kind of pumpkin.
So first of all, when you're selecting your pumpkin, you want to make sure and pick it up from the bottom. Don't pick it up from the stem because sometimes that's the coolest part of the pumpkin. And if you're carrying it by the stem, that could break off. Another thing to look for is not all pumpkins are perfect and they do have blemishes. As long as the blemish is hard when you touch it, then that's okay. If it happens to be soft, then you don't want to get that pumpkin because it's probably going to go bad before
probably
it's
going to go bad, or the squirrels are going to get to
Yes.
it. The other thing is you know, I guess practice politeness when you go pumpkin shopping. In our eagerness, I know I'm guilty of this, to get at that perfect pumpkin in the back,
Right.
we sometimes can damage those that are in the foreground. So by all means, ask people for help so that you get exactly the pumpkin
Yes.
that you want.
Right.
Okay, there are just so many varieties. Why don't you share a couple of the more unique ones and how they got their names?
Okay, so this one is the Choga Choga. I'm honestly not sure where they got that name, but this one is really popular and it's just it has an interesting texture and a cool color.
And look here, this is a perfect example of not picking it up by
Yes,
the stem.
broken stem.
And for some people like me, the stem is every bit as important a part
Right.
of the look as the gourd itself. So
Yes.
what about these over here?
So these are called the One Too Many. They kind of look like a bloodshot eye, like if you had one too many drinks. So that's a pretty fun pumpkin, I think, to have.
Wouldn't you love to have the job of naming these pumpkins?
Yes, that would be a really fun job. They've gotten pretty creative with the names of the pumpkins we do have. We have a fairy tale pumpkin, we have the enchanted, and then on the end we also have a Cinderella. So I feel like those are
fun.
fun.
The Disney collection.
Yes,
of.
right.
Now you've got one very special variety up here that I want to point out to everyone, and it's this porcelain doll. So tell us about this one.
So the porcelain doll variety, the person that developed that seed decided when the growers purchased the seeds that he donates a portion of the proceeds to breast cancer research. So that's a great pumpkin to purchase.
Yeah, because October is all about pumpkins. It's breast cancer awareness month, and I think that this perfect pink pumpkin would look great as part of your fall tableau. But it's also the time, you guys, to buy your kale, buy your pansies, buy your mums. In other words, it's all about fall in our gardens right now.
Right.
Well, I don't need Mike Morgan or the calendar to tell me that fall has arrived because my postman did. I just got 2 huge boxes filled with spring flowering bulbs. And even though it's not bulb planting time, that won't happen till probably as late as the week before Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas. I nevertheless am starting to do lots of bulb planting prep. And what do I mean by that? Well, these bulbs that I've gotten in the mail, I made sure to place my bulb order early. If you haven't already done that, you want to make sure that you order your bulbs right away, or you start looking for them at your nursery or garden center to ensure that you get the best selection and the colors and varieties that you want. But I've already received mine, and I want to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to make sure that I open the boxes to make sure that I am getting really good quality bulbs. And what do I mean by that? Well, these look fresh, they look firm. Doesn't really matter too much if some of this papery outer shell is starting to come off. Mostly I just want to check to see that they are firm and that they don't have any blemishes or kind of soft spots in them. I've got the boxes open so that they'll get maximum air circulation, and I'm just going to store them in a cool, dark place until it's bulb planting time. Some other things that I'm making sure to have on hand for when I'm ready to rock and roll in the garden and actually get them in the ground. I'm going to make sure that I save the instructions on bulb planting, because if you're not familiar with planting tulips or really any kind of spring flowering bulbs, you may not know how far apart they should be planted and how many you can plant in one, say, square foot area. So if you keep the brochures that come along with it and the instructions, or you just check the internet, it will tell you exactly how many you can put in a designated area. Now, I push the envelope a little bit and typically squeeze in a few more, but keep these on hand and read it beforehand so that you give them the proper treatment to ensure maximum success. Now, another thing, I make sure that I've got my shovel sharpened, because I don't do any of this using a little planting device where I plant one tulip bulb at a time, or any kind of bulb at a time. I typically dig fairly large holes, and then I plant or I install maybe 25, 50, sometimes even 75 bulbs into that hole all at one time. That really makes me efficient, and it makes I make sure that I get my bang for the buck in terms of drama next year. Now, if I'm planting bulbs in a way where they're going to be more isolated and more singular instead of planted in mass, then you might want to use something like one of these wonderful power planter augers. I got this one at Lowe's. You just attach it to a really good, strong, high quality drill, and with just a push of the trigger, it will do your digging for you. So there you go. Those are just a few tips that you might want to take into account as you get ready to plant your bulbs this fall. Well, I love any project that is mindlessly easy, and forcing paper whites at Christmas time is just that. All you really need are paper white bulbs that are meant and pre-treated specifically for forcing. These will bloom before Christmas time. Any kind of bowl or container, it doesn't need drainage, that's at least 3 inches deep. Some gravel, and then I'm going to show you a trick in just a moment. So all I'm doing with these bulbs is I'm nestling them down into the gravel to about the neck where the stem comes out of the bulb, and I'm packing them in pretty closely. They can even be touching. So in this container alone, you can see here, I've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bulbs. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to give them some water. Now just make sure that it only goes up to about the level of the gravel. Now, these are going to start growing almost immediately, you guys. And when they get to the point that they're about 2 to 3 inches tall, what I want to do is stunt their growth. Enter either gin or vodka, sure to stunt your growth. I'm sure your mom told you that. And what I'm going to do is come up with a concoction of 7 parts of water to just 1 part of either gin or vodka. And feel free to get the cheapest version out there, because it will work just as fine as a pricier bottle. And then what you're going to do is just, again, it's 7 parts water to 1 part of vodka. So the easy way for me to remember is at the 1/4 cup mark, I fill that up about halfway with the gin or the vodka, and the rest with water. Once these have gotten to the height of about 2 to 3 inches, I'm going to empty out the water that's already in there, water them with my new magical elixir, and then keep them watered with that same solution until they grow. That will get them to be a little bit more sturdy. Their stems won't be so floppy and top heavy so that they kind of crater. And it just gives them enough fortification so that the more dwarf nature of them makes them a little bit more presentable in your vase and on your holiday table. Well, if you're a gardener, you probably already know that this is absolutely the easiest and I think one of the most elegant ways to decorate for the holidays. And that's just getting your pruners, going outside into your landscape and cutting all sorts of festive greenery to bring inside. This is a plate rack that is in my breakfast room, and I just went into my back garden and I trimmed lots of arborvitae, some arborvitae branches and some yews. I have some little topiaries that are made out of pine cones, and I've got these tucked in and amongst things that live here all the time. All of this beautiful china that I got from my mother-in-law, and then I've just added some of these cute little wooden ornaments that again remind me of the garden. There's even a topiary one. I've got candles in here, but obviously they don't get burned while they're in the plate rack, but I can easily grab them, put them on my breakfast room table that I have decorated in the same way with natural things. Lots of greenery, some pecans from a local pecan farm, some pine cones, and lots of citrus. It couldn't be easier. It couldn't, I think, be more simplified and elegant. And what I like about it is once you're all finished with the holidays, there's no trucking down to your basement or up to your attic to put a bunch of things away. All you have to do is take this outside for the birds or the compost pile. So happy holidays. Get your gardener on, grab your pruners, go outside and decorate something inside for the holidays. Well, next Thursday is Thanksgiving, and if you guys are like me, you're getting ready to set a beautiful table and deciding what your centerpiece will be for the big feast. And I've got a project for you that could not be easier, inspired by the garden. Right now, you probably have all sorts of pumpkins on display outside, and as soon as Thanksgiving is over, these pumpkins are probably going to be relegated to the chickens or the compost pile. So why not press them into service and use them as a beautiful centerpiece and make decoupage pumpkins? It could not be easier, you guys. All you need to have is either some Mod Podge glue or some spray adhesive. If you're using Mod Podge, obviously you're going to want a paintbrush, and then some clear glossy enamel, and then this is where you guys can have fun. Get your kiddos involved. Go outside and just clip some beautiful fern fronds, some delicate vines. I've got some Nandina branches here. I've got some soft caress mahonia, and look at these gorgeous, gorgeous tendrils of this Boston ivy. The color is just beautiful. Japanese maple leaves would also be lovely. And then all you're going to do is take whatever your foraged items are, and you're going to compress them under some heavy books, or in my case, I've got a couple of wooden cutting boards that I've placed a heavy pumpkin on. That way it gives you a flat surface that's a little bit easier to work with. Then you just take your beautiful foliage, give it a spritz or a painting of some glue, spray glue or Mod Podge, and then you're just going to adhere it to the pumpkin itself. Now obviously a smooth pumpkin works a lot better than a knucklehead or some of those pumpkins that have lots of texture to them, and you're just going to basically paint that foliage onto the pumpkin itself. Again, I found that the more delicate the foliage, I think, the more beautiful. Then when you're completely done, you're going to give it a spray of some clear gloss enamel, which will help illuminate it and reflect the shine from your candlelight and the crystal that might be on your table. If some of the foliage starts to detach, don't worry about it at all, because it gives it this really beautiful 3D kind of dimensionality that I think is fabulous and really dramatic. So it couldn't be easier. Go out, use what you've already got, get your kids involved, and make a really dramatic centerpiece inspired by the garden. Well, it's the end of summer and it's the beginning of fall gardening. And it's also when I kind of do an assessment of what my winners and losers were for the season, for the entire growing season, actually. And let me tell you, the big winner for me, I got it at the recommendation of a lot of my followers, and that was one of these Giraffe Tool retractable hose reels. it is an understatement to say it is life transforming. It is absolutely fabulous. I have one in the back, I have one in the front. Coincidentally, I purchased one for the front, and then they asked if I would like to try one out and kind of be a spokesperson for them, and I said yes, so then I got one for the back. These exceeded my expectations, you guys. It has made everything so much easier to water because I'm constantly wrangling hoses, probably like you are too. So a couple of things. Number one, I wanted to make sure it was really stable and well hung. So I actually had my handyman do this for me. He drilled into the brick for this one in the backyard. In the front yard, he actually drilled into the stone to make sure that it wasn't just into the mortar, and it was really, really secure, because you really do apply some tension and some pressure to it. And then he said that if I was telling anyone who was considering purchasing one, to use, instead of the plastic anchors that come with it, to use wooden anchors. I believe he said he used a 1/2-inch wooden dowel that he cut into anchors with a 1/2-inch drill bit. I believe that's correct. The point of that is not to use the plastic anchors, because they probably just won't be as long lasting and durable as the wood ones. So here's a little primer on how it works and how easy it is. Now, number one, you may ask why I've got it hanging so high, and that's because I wanted clearance. I wanted clearance over this short fence that I have right here, and in the front I wanted clearance over a short stem wall that I've got on my front porch. The other reason is because now I don't have to bend over, and it just makes it a lot easier. And you can see that it also kind of moves with me. It torques. So if I am working in that part of the garden or in this part of the garden, then definitely it has mobility, so it can work along with me. Now, here's a couple of things that I have learned. I count, like, if I've got a certain region of my garden that I want to water, I start counting about how many pulls it takes to water that expanse of the garden. So for me, it takes about 15 pulls. So I pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I could pull more, but to make it stabilize and stay put, you just give it another tug. And so every other pull will stabilize it. Now you don't want to turn it on or retract it with the water on. So definitely you don't want to have it under constant pressure, because that might decrease the lifespan. So make sure that before you turn it on and you turn it off, in other words, before you pull it out or you retract it, that you've got it turned on or off. Now it comes with one of these hose end sprayers. I put mine on a quick connect so I can easily attach it and detach it. You may have a different kind of hose end sprayer that you could use that might be a little bit more customized to you. So I typically keep it on shower, and I can just water to my heart's content. It typically does not kink, but if it does, you just give it a little tug and it will go back into place. So when I'm ready to retract it, again, I turn it off at the sprayer. I'll turn it off here. And then this is how easy it is, you guys, to retract it. You just tug on it, and you might want to kind of guide it so it doesn't whiplash you, so it doesn't retract too quickly. So I just pull it, and I just kind of, if it doesn't get stuck on one of my plant stands, I just let it retract itself, and I can kind of guide the speed at which it retracts. It's just like a miracle to me. It is absolutely wonderful. I have one more faucet. I need to get one more hose reel. So Giraffe, if you're listening, I need one more hose reel for the back side of my house. But you guys, these are great. I put it on my Christmas, one of my recommended gifts for Christmas, and I believe they gave me a coupon code, you guys. So I will do a swipe up in my stories with whatever codes I have. But I promise you, I've had these for about 6 weeks now. I am in love with them. I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to make watering more efficient, and this definitely does that. So there is one of my thumbs up, a definite winner for this growing season, one of these Giraffe retractable hose reels.